Hey everybody, it's Rochelle Jones again with Grief Recovery. So I had a thought that I thought I'm going to share it with you because it's Sunday and I want to share a thought with you. Can I have a minute? Okay, thank you. Sorry, my husband just walked into my office. Okay, so hi, thank you for joining. So I wanted to share this thought with you because it's the way I understand. But it was a new picture. Okay. So it's Sunday and I'm just coming out of church. I don't know if you know, but I teach Jen and my friend Jen Osler, Bolton here, we teach our own little home church called S.O.S. Now, this is a grief recovery method page. This is my work page. And I want you to hear, if you're here for the grief recovery method, tools, ideas, and concepts, it's not a Christian program at all. It has nothing to do with religion. We don't talk with religion. But because of who I am, I will often have students who are taking the method, but because of their religious belief system, things will come up in class. But it's not a religious class at all. We don't talk about theology, nothing like that. But, not but, and because I do work with a lot of Christian students, because I'm one myself, I want to share a thought with those people specifically, okay? Because there's so much that happens in the world of religion, and a lot of it's not true, correct, or helpful, and then leaves people or how Christian people treat others. It just it's a bad situation, and that's partly why I'm so passionate. Now, what I wanted to share with you is this. Okay, so you're going to have to travel into your mind for a minute and create a picture. So the picture I have in my mind is of a heart. I'm also a nurse I worked in the surgical ICU in the Air Force. So my mind works in medical pictures. Okay. So, when we say things like, my heart feels, or, I feel this in my heart, or I just like sort of an intuition, right? But I want you to get a picture of a physical anatomical heart, okay, the organ. So you've got the heart, which is where we feel stuff, where life comes from. But it's also, think about it, your grief event. Where do you feel it? Close your eyes. And if you think about your grief event or events, they have a very physical sensation. And I ask you where you feel that. Usually we feel it from like the chin to the bottom of the gut, somewhere in the core, right? And it's all very connected to our heart, our life source. When we have grief energy, it affects us very physically, right? So I want you to picture the organ as though if you traveled inward and, used a microscope and saw deeper, 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 imagine there are an infinite number of rooms, like bedrooms, in your heart. So you've got this heart. We know there are 4 chambers, but imagine that it's got infinite rooms, very small, different sizes hidden inside of it, okay? And inside of those rooms, this is for my Christian students here. This is for my Christian students or people with a belief system that kind of points them toward God, Jesus, maybe. Actually, really anyone could maybe use this ability or this thought. So you're traveling into the heart, and it's got many little rooms. Inside of those rooms, there could be some stuff jammed in and clogged. I would say emotional energy. For the purposes of this thought, it's emotional energy, grief, jammed in and stuck in each of these little rooms, many of them, maybe most of them. So the people who are here, who their belief system includes God or Jesus. So when we talk about the light, these little rooms that are full of grief and emotion, the grief is stuck in those little rooms. The work of grief recovery, the work is on a spiritual kind of understanding level, even though it's not a spiritual class at all. But for those students who are spiritual, this would apply for you. So imagine this work. It's step by step how to travel into the heart, how to find the rooms that are full, overcrowded with grief energy, unresolved emotional energy because of some painful experience caused by change or loss. You've got a leftover emotional burden called grief, and it's tucked inside of these bedrooms of our heart. Okay, so the work of grief recovery is step by step how to find each room and how to see what's inside of it, and then step by step how to remove what's in that room, what's jammed and clogged in there. So here's the point. If you are a believer of Jesus or God and a follower, the work of the grief recovery method in that I frame, that thought process, is to bring the light into, find the dark spaces, do recovery action, stuff that we know works, to remove the clog. And guess what lives in there? More light. So the work of the grief recovery method, for those who have a belief system that includes God or Jesus, that's essentially what you're doing. And since I know you who read the Bible learn about I am the light, we live with a lot of dark because that's just what grief does. It clogs our bedrooms, and it has physical effects, like our heart doesn't beat the same way, it doesn't beat as fully, it has to work too hard, blood pressure goes up, we run risk of strokes and heart disease and diabetes. These are very physical consequences of unresolved emotional stuff called grief, right? So if we think of it of a bunch as grief filling the bedrooms of our heart, our belief system, when God says bring what's in the dark to the light, that's what we're doing. We're going into the dark rooms, finding the unresolved emotional energy that's shoved in there, clogging that particular room or many rooms, and step by step removing the clog, and more light gets put in. Or you can think of it the opposite way of letting God come in to find where your clogs are, do his magic called the grief recovery method. I do believe it's quite miraculous the way that it works, and let him really see what's hiding in that room, show you what to do with it, and he gets it out of there. So you're full of more light, you're full of lightness, meaning that it's not as heavy. That's what recovery means. It's getting back something that belongs to you, which is a freed up heart space. So that's essentially what we're doing. If this doesn't apply to you, you don't subscribe to that belief system, that's perfectly fine. I would say half or more of my students do not. And so we talk about this very differently. But for those students or people who are curious about the grief recovery method, we're not going to pull out Bible and we're not going to battle theology. That's not the time or place for it. We are going to teach you recovery, and that's what recovery is. That's on a spiritual, even if you're religious level, that's what's happening. You are taking the light into the dark places, really investigating them, doing very specific action to clear out what's causing that darkness to remain so that light can fill it. The darkness goes away in that bedroom. So if you have many bedrooms, emotional bedrooms, hi, thanks for joining. You're going to have to listen to the beginning. Oh, it's Jean. Hi. You're going to have to listen to the beginning to see, to hear what I'm talking about here, because I'm in a weird, what's not going to make sense if you don't hear the beginning. But that's essentially what we're doing. The steps, tools, and actions of the grief recovery method are helping us to travel into those bedrooms that are full and clogged, and then helping us remove the contents of that bedroom so that the darkness, so more light can come in. Hey, Joe. Hey, I had a thought that I didn't share with you just yet, but I needed to share it because it's big on my mind or heart or whatever. So that's essentially, if you are a Christian, or you read the Bible and you're curious of like, why do we do this grief recovery method? Well, if you're a Christian, you believe in God, you believe in Jesus, and when we talk about in the Bible of light and dark, That's what it means. So some people will just like cling to the light. God is good, God is great, God is wonderful, but they miss the personal application. And the personal application lets the light live in a more real and experiential way. So there's a different kind of weight. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. There's a different weight of the light for you. And so it comes out differently because it's in there instead of letting the light always like hang out right here, but we know that the bedrooms in our heart are clogged, full of dark stuff, which means unresolved emotional energy. And it's heavy, and that has very, very physical consequences that affect our health. Like I had said, the heart can't beat the same. We get dysrhythmias, we get high blood pressure, heart disease, that could lead to stroke. It could lead to heart attack. That could lead to all kinds of things. It affects our immune system. Now we've got inflammation. We've got things not working correctly. There's clogs and builds, you see. So that's how the grief recovery method would work, using words and concepts of Jesus or the Bible, even though you're never going to hear any of that in a class at all, because very often my students don't believe in God. They don't believe, they have their own belief system. And the beautiful thing is I get to honor that. I get to just hear it and say, thanks for sharing. Let's do the steps of recovery now. We just get to love each other where we are. But for those of you who are believers of some kind, I just wanted to kind of like shed some light, no pun intended, on the concepts of light and dark and how that applies to your recovery work. And maybe even why it's important to incorporate recovery work into your life. Excuse me. So that is why recovery work, I believe, is so important to our life, because when we are trying to bring the light in and be the light, then we have to do the work of being the light. We can't be the light because of the fancy things that we say. We be the light because of what is inside of us. Excuse me. And we can't necessarily be the light as effectively when we have bedrooms in our heart. Excuse me, I'm choking. Excuse me. We can't be the light as big and effectively when we have bedrooms full of darkness. Not talking good and evil. I'm talking darkness, heavy, unresolved emotion, doesn't feel good, interferes with your light, your concentration, your energy. Really makes sometimes hanging on to your faith very challenging, maybe even obliterates it altogether or severs it. So I just want to give you that and what it means for you. Great. Oh, emotional hoarding in each room. Yes, exactly. Emotional hoarding. There's so much to hoard, but the heavy, dark parts of emotion, that's not what we want to hoard. I'd rather hoard flowers and joy and sunshine and lightness, not weight that's going to cause disease. Remember, dis-ease results in disease. So we really just want to work on that. That's what I have to share with you today. And because it's Sunday, because I do have such a strong belief system for myself that includes God and Jesus, I felt like I could share that with you today. So I hope that means something for you. And if it doesn't, that's great. Move on to the next thing. No big deal. All right. I love y'all. Talk with you later. Bye.